My personal history with activism is not very extensive. Before taking this class or doing any independent research, activism seemed entirely unattainable. A lifetime of perfect choices away, something that required a complete 180 shift of my routines and my lifestyle. I met the idea with resistance. The term activist made me feel small. It felt like an impossible lifestyle to maintain in tandem with whatever pre-existing lifestyle I upheld. Being environmentally conscious meant going vegan and producing no waste. No garbage would be allowed, and I wouldn't be able to drive a car. Would I really have to sign away my weekends to marching in protests downtown? Would I really be bereft of the luxury of straws forever? Would I really have to stop eating chicken? Well, yes, we really should decrease that demand, but we'll get there. To my sheltered child brain, activists seemed like radically progressive big mouths with a penchant for disrupting the natural order of things, whatever that meant. With liberal education and an inkling of motivation to be critical, I saw the natural order of things to be a twisted system full of corrupt rulers who exploit the underprivileged. I now realize that an activist can be anyone who stands up and fights for what they truly believe is right. These people will fight no matter the cost, because they know their cause is for good. In her book, A Field Guide to Climate Anxiety, Sarah Jaquette Ray talks a lot about the emotional side to climate change. The anxiety, the nostalgia, and the collective worry we all feel but don't have the stomach to talk openly about. She gets introspective and personal about climate change, which may seem like an ineffective way to start thinking about it, but which I've found extremely productive. Quote, "We need to discover where our personal power comes from and generate confidence that our individual efforts will make a difference." End quote. She goes on to talk about our spheres of influence and the leverage points, I will come back to these, that can be found in each of our lives. And these tools have guided my two main tenets for what I believe activism should look like. Caveat, these are not in-depth, step-by-step instructions, but simplified mantras to remind ourselves of, at least the two that have helped me most. First, activists should make the conscious choice and effort to do what is right for themselves, other people, and the natural world, including flora and fauna, within the limits of reasonable ability. Second, alongside doing good, activists should actively seek ways to make positive change, however small, without sacrificing the well-being of themselves and their family. However, because my position on activism is totally influenced by my privilege as a middle-class white male student, these tenets may seem lukewarm to some. These are simply useful guides to me and not assertive to activism as a whole by any means. The next logical question would be, what does doing good look like for different people? Is philosophical pondering a productive way to promote environmental change? Kate Rawls might argue yes, thinking about activism is a legitimate way to spark change. Thinking about activism is more than doing nothing about activism, after all. Jay Callicott would tell us that, quote, "In thinking, talking, and writing about environmental ethics, environmental philosophers already have their shoulders to the wheel," end quote. Thinking, talking, and writing about environmental ethics is all well and good, but where does that get us on a tangible stepladder of progress? Who can be an activist, and what can they do in their position to affect meaningful change? Well, truly anyone can be an activist. My previous two tenets seem like things anyone could reasonably accomplish, but some possible objections do arise. While anyone can be an activist with little to no sacrifice, some people may find even a little sacrifice much harder. A family at or below the poverty line would have a hard time on a strictly vegan diet. Whole foods is expensive. Chicken is a convenient source of protein, and not everyone can go campaigning night and day against industrial livestock farms. Most of us need time to make a living to even afford to live. So the question once again arises, how can we, the every person, affect meaningful positive change without debilitating sacrifice? Perhaps we could cut our meat intake by just 20%. Maybe we walk or bike to school or work. Maybe we start a backyard garden, if we have a backyard, and return to nature. But even these suggestions bear the mark of a privileged life. I'll return now to the spheres of influence and leverage points that Ray references. Spheres of influence can allow anyone to do good and to seek possible positive change. If one can identify their spheres of influence, the small things in their neighborhoods and societies that they could change, they could find the leverage points they need to affect the greater change they desire. The minuscule affects the grandiose and vice versa. I find this version of activism to be the most inspiring. Looking for the good stories of local heroes and finding opportunities to create positive local change is everything in the climate movement. For now, as a poor, busy student, it may not be easy to move to a vegan or vegetarian diet. I may not have the time to start a gardening club with my pals, but I know that I can decrease my meat consumption, use less plastic water bottles, and spread the good word that hope is still out there if you know where to look. And maybe that could be enough.